Today's podcast guest is Denarius Lewis, and we get to hear the story of a young man who never gives up. Denarius talks about his life of couch surfing and being down to only $1.78 in his pocket. Then later becoming a homeowner and a landlord. Talk about success. He shares his discipline of falling down many times and all his setbacks along the way. What turned it around, and watching the movie The Secret for 30 days straight. He now aspires to one day be a good husband, a good father, and buy his mother a home.
My name's Travis Sims, and I am the founder and CEO of AGC, Accelerated Global Connections. And this is the AGC Experience.
Have you wondered if Facebook and Instagram ads could work for your business? Do you know that these ads are the most cost-effective advertising on and off the internet today? That is, if you know what you are doing. Isn't it time to take advantage of Facebook and Instagram ads to get more leads and sales for your business? Janet E. Johnson has helped bring in millions of dollars using online marketing strategies. She offers both management and training solutions. Set up a discovery call with her to see if your business is a fit. JanetEJohnson.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to the AGC Experience podcast show. I'm super excited for our guest here today. A part of our speaker series in the AGC Experience, we're going to be interviewing Denarius Lewis in just a little bit. But at first, I want to say thank you for tuning in. Audience, we are getting subscribers, listeners, watchers from all over the country and all over the world. And not only are we doing and recording this podcast right now, but thanks to Denarius, we are live streaming the process of building this podcast as well. So this is going to be a fun experience for all of us. Please do me this favor. If you find quality in today's podcast, we want you to share it with others. We want you to send that link when it's available. We want you to send it to others. So Denarius, thank you for being here today. We're super excited to get to know you. You were a speaker at our Minneapolis event. I believe it was December. Am I hitting the month right?
Yep, December, right before we went into the new year.
Yes, December 2019. And you had such a great message, and we had a huge audience that day. And I'm super excited because we got you for 15 minutes, but I'm excited to get to know you, a little bit about you and your history and where you came from and what you're passionate about. So if you would take it just a moment and introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background.
Sure. So everyone, my name is Denarius Lewis. I am a motivational speaker, an author, activist, landlord, a man with many titles, but I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I grew up there for a little bit. My family decided to move to Minnesota in 1998, and that's where I currently reside. I graduated high school in Burnsville, so I grew up with two older sisters. 15 years old is really when I really started my first business. So when people talk about entrepreneurship, where did you come from? I started having to help out around the house financially at a very early age. I got my first job at Dairy Queen in Burnsville, right across the street from school. I was a wrestler, so right after wrestling practice, I had to trolley over to Dairy Queen and sell those daily bars. And my big passion has always been just doing things that are different. I grew up in a household where, go to school, get good grades, and graduate. Well, as I went down that path, it just didn't work out for me. So after I graduated high school in 2011, I went to college out in Iowa at a school called Iowa Central Community College, and I went out there for a year. I was blessed to be a part of two national champion teams, one in wrestling, one in cross country. But after suffering my 9th concussion, I said, I'm done wrestling. I'm done trying to be this macho guy. There has to be something else out here. And I was sick of getting my eyes beat up and head butts and all that crazy stuff. And so I decided to transfer to school to Sierra Nevada College in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Really cool school, very unaffordable. It was $44,000 a year. And I was like, all right. I lasted one semester, and my family decided to move back to Tennessee in that time frame. So I was like, well, okay, I want to go back to Minnesota. That's where I grew up. That's all I really know. And I ended up meeting a guy out there, and he said, oh, Denarius, you can come out to Minnesota and just stay with me. I said, cool, all right. Well, I went to go visit family because it was the winter of 2012, Christmas time. And when I came to his house, and he's like, oh, he just thought I wanted to party because he gave me the invite at a party. So when I came to his house, he had a party, and it just didn't work out. And so I was basically just left with nowhere to go. And I ended up sending out a tweet on Twitter, and an old family friend who knew me through the wrestling community, he said, "Oh, Daenerys, my family loves you. You can go stay out with them in Savage, Minnesota." And I was like, "All right, cool." Well, again, I didn't have a car, license, or permit to get around because I'm a college student. Everything's walkable distances. And so I sent out another tweet on Twitter, and friends that knew me, they said, "Hey, we can come hang out with you." And they eventually picked me up, dropped me off at that home. And that's where I started rebuilding. And I got accepted to every school in Minnesota, but I didn't have a car, license, or permit to get around. So I had a friend, she was going to St. Cloud on a Friday. I'm a late bloomer, so I reached out to her on that Wednesday and said, "Hey, do you mind if I jump in your car in 2 days and go to St. Cloud?" I went to St. Cloud, and that's where I really had a turning point in my career. At 19 years old, my big goal was to always go to school and start a business. And at St. Cloud, that's where I had that chance to start my very first business. I created apps for iPhones. So I don't recommend this to anyone. What I did was I took my student refund check. Instead of buying my college books, I took the money and hired a company overseas to come up with my own iPhone app. And obviously I did not do well that semester. And I ended up I was banking on my dreams. I put all my eggs in one basket, and I had a chance to create my first app. It was called Zombie Doodle. And it was around that time that Walking Dead, Zombie versus Plants. I wanted to ride that wave of the zombie epidemic. And I created that app with a good friend from Burnsville. We collided and we met in St. Cloud, and we put our money together, and we came up with this concept. He was a friend that believed in me because of all my energy. And what I learned that summer is learning how to market. I had a lot of cool downloads internationally, but I didn't really make any money off of it. And it was just a cool passion that I was able to really bring to fruition. In that summer of 2013 is where I had all my downfall. And that summer I was couch surfing, trying to figure it out, networking with people in St. Cloud. And I ended up working a lot of odd jobs, but I was basically, every time I was left with $1.78. And I ended up surviving that summer really broke, never having a food budget of $10 a month. I would go to Walmart, get $4 worth of chicken nuggets and $5 worth of potatoes. And I would just eat chicken nuggets and potatoes all month, ration it out, count how many chicken nuggets I can eat that would last me that day or that week, and really get myself into that survival mode. And I ended up getting a job as a debt collector. I started following the route with my friends. I used to live in a house where it was 13 roommates, 5 girls and 8 guys, and a really big, cool, fun house. And a lot of my roommates were working as debt collectors. And so I was like, all right, I'll jump into this field, whatever. And I ended up becoming a debt collector. I had an alias. My name was Matt Peterson. And I would just call people, "Hey, this is Matt Peterson. Give me a call from the office of J.C. Christensen." And I really was selling people hope on how to get themselves out of debt. As I'm a college kid who had to stop going to school because I was putting myself in debt, and I couldn't work a job and all that fun stuff because colleges really don't want to, jobs don't really want to work around college kids' student hours. So I had to leave school, get a full-time job, to try to get myself back into school. But what I learned in that job was I was calling people who had the dreams, who had the degrees, and they were living the dream that I had aspired to live, but they had a lot of debt that came along with it. And as a person that was already in $40,000+ in debt at 19 years old, working a full-time job, working $10 an hour plus commission, and calling people, it really hit home. And I'm a very compassionate person, and in that job, it really taught me that it wasn't for me. And I kept getting out of that position. I ended up quitting that job after working 6 months and just grueling, calling people 500 calls a day to only talk to one person, because to this day, I have met one person that wanted to talk to a debt collector. That's why they're in debt. They're not answering the phone. So, and I had a great time working that job. They helped me build my communication skills to talk to people over the phones. And I thought to myself, well, if I can talk to anyone over the phone, I'm sure I can go in front of someone and do the same thing. So I really built my confidence. And then I went to another job at Capital One. I worked in the fraud department, and I started learning the skills of, tech and all the fun things that school would have taught me, but I had to go into the real world to learn it. And at that job, I was really using a lot of attraction. And a friend sat me down and said, "Daenerys, you should watch this movie called The Secret." Because her mom had showed her that movie, and she's like, "You should watch this." And I love Sonia to this day, my good friend. And I watched that movie, The Secret, for 30 days straight at my lowest. And I watched it for 30 days straight, every single day, religiously. And at the end of that movie really taught me, light attracts light, darkness attracts darkness. And as a person who was going through a dark phase, I had to switch up how I perceived myself. And I started following the signs of my intuition, and I went to the library of Capital One, and I saw this book. It was called Branding Yourself by Kyle Lacey and Eric Deckers. And it said, do what professionals do, go where professionals go, and wear what they wear. And at that time, in the next sentence, it says, where do professionals go? BNI groups. So I joined the Chambers of Commerce at St. Cloud at 19 years old, barely had a business. I had a concept. I had just created a website, but I knew that it was something that I wanted to do was to speak life into people. So I created my second business called Words Worth Listening Academy, which was an online blog where I just wrote my feelings. I would make videos on topics that people would love to talk about, but weren't talking about it. And at that Chambers of Commerce, I met a mentor. Her name is Mary Dingman, and she was very successful in her network marketing business, making passive income. She was in her 60s, and she was well off. And she sat me down at the job that I was working at the time at Capital One. I took my lunch break, and this lunch break lasted 3 hours, and I almost lost my job that day. But she said, if money was never an option, what would you want your life to look like? And then I came with all these ideas. I said, I want this. I want the private jet. I want to wear nice clothes and nice cars. And she said, well, why are you not living your dream? And then I came up with every excuse why I wasn't living my dream, rather than come up with every excuse why I can live my dream. And that quick thought pattern of how she taught me transformational learning really helped me build my own self-confidence towards planting the seed, watering it, and knowing that whatever I water, it will grow. But if I don't know what I'm planting, how will I know what's going to grow? So she took me under her wing. She gave me all the books, the Think and Grow Riches, all the Tony Robinsons, the Les Brown books, and the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. And I just started reading. And at that time, I had nothing to do. I didn't have a job. I left my job at Capital One. I got so inspired because one day I came to work and I felt like I was in the same position 3 years later. And because it was another call center. I had just left a call center position to go to another call center position. And really emotionally and energetically, I was over the environment, the toxicity of corporate America, and being the cubicle life, the water jug, talk. And as a guy who was 19 with all this energy of people, and I really started to realize some of the people around me had given up on their dreams. I had a person that was sitting next to me at the debt collection job, and she had 3 masters. But was getting paid the same as a kid who just left college, who has a high school diploma and is making $10 an hour. And I was like, well, that's not the life I want. I'm very obviously education is all cool and dandy, but I knew that wasn't a path for me if I was going to be in the same position that I was already in without the degree. So she taught me all these things, and all the books she put in my hand, my mentor. I kept hearing everyone's story. I kept being inspired with everyone else's story. But at the same time, I didn't see any person that necessarily looked like me. And outside of Les Brown, one of the big speakers, and some of the other cats, I said, well, what's stopping me from writing my own book? What's stopping me from being in the light that I see all the people that I'm inspired by? And so at 19 years old, I wrote my first book called The Criminals of a Personality, the pocketbook guide for success, prosperity, and happiness. And in that book, it was me telling my story of me meeting like-minded people, but them letting themselves get in the way of their dreams. Every time I met someone at that age of 19 years old, aspired to be whoever I am today, everyone said what they could do, but they added the word "but" behind it. And that was the same thing that my mentor that was speaking life into me, that word "but" is the most limiting thing you can put into your vocabulary. Anything that's negative, you will manifest. And so I had a friend that I was, he said, hey, all I need is a flash drive to start my computer business, because he's a tech geek. And I was like, do you need a ride at Walmart? What do you mean all you need is a flash drive? For most people, they need a brick and mortar, they need a loan, they need this, they need a business plan, they need advisors, they need a whole foundation. And if all you need is a flash drive that's stopping you from starting your tech business to help people repair computers and phones and stuff, I said, get in the car. But I realized not everyone has that drive, doesn't have that intuitiveness. And fast forward today, he's now living his dream. He's an engineer over at Target, and I love to see him in that transition. But at one point, we weren't in that transition. We were aspiring to be who we want to be, but not seeing that we were already that person. We just weren't making the necessary steps and actions to do so. So I broke free of that environment in St. Cloud. I was 20 years old. I said, I can't be in this world anymore. I couldn't be in this environment. It was very toxic. And so I needed to find a way to get back to Minneapolis. And I started applying for jobs down in Minneapolis, odd jobs, working overnights at warehouses where I'm the only person that spoke English. And I just had to figure it out. Taking naps in my car because I had no place. I didn't renew my lease in St. Cloud, so my friends would let me sleep on their couch until I made another status of anyone that, hey, could take me in. This is me, 20 years old, entrepreneur guy. And the family that took me in when I made that Twitter tweet back in 2012, that took me back in 2015. And I was very blessed and humble for them to re-welcome me in my transition of growth. And I stayed with them for 6 months, rent-free, in the same spot as I was. Now, this is me at 22 years old. I'm in a lot of college debt. Debt collectors are calling because I used to be them, so I know the numbers that pop up. And I felt that Minnesota wasn't working for me. I was planting all the right seeds, networking, shaking hands, but it just wasn't for me. But I had a friend that was always saying, "Hey, man, you have no girlfriend. You're making money online virtually through my affiliate links and stuff. Come down to Florida." So I said, "Okay, I'll make it work." At 22 years old, I jumped in my car. I sold all the stuff that I had on me, my computer, and had enough gas money to get to Memphis. And because that's where I'm from. I'm from Memphis. So I stayed with my mom for 3 months, trying to make it work, trying to get money, working odd jobs, working at the fair, the state fair that happens in Tennessee, and people just speaking life into me, believing in me. And I'm a snot-nosed kid who just has his big dreams, but I barely have $5 to rub together. And then family rallied together to push me to go to Florida. I went to Florida, and Florida was hot, a lot hotter than Minnesota. And I lived off my friend's couch for 3 months straight. Barely, I was working, I had a job at working, I was at a job, I was one of those guys at the Sam's Club selling DirecTV. When you go to Walmart, you go to Target, and those guys are trying to sell you some overpriced Xfinity process. That was me. I was that guy trying to make it work, and I lasted probably 2 weeks. I got my first paycheck that covered enough gas, and Florida was not working. And I had met a girl in Minnesota at that time. She said, "You can come back to Minnesota." So I eventually did the same thing, packed my car up, said sorry to my buddy, sorry I couldn't pay for rent, and came back to Minnesota. And that's where it was a transition of growth. And once I came back to Minnesota, I had a job as a marketing and research assistant, making part-time job, really only making no more than $800 a month. On the side, I'm speaking to kids. I'm pushing my speaking business. I'm trying to push this book, one of my first books. And I kept just networking. And I eventually got to a point where I got a decent paying job as an e-commerce manager. I was helping businesses. I was helping a business online in St. Paul establish themselves on their online presence, because I had built a brand for myself, SEO marketing and stuff like that. And it was one of the highest paying jobs I had at that time. I was making over $50,000, a salary as a kid who doesn't have a degree. That's pretty decent. And I learned a lot in those 6 months. I lasted that job for 6 months because I'm an entrepreneur. And I learned, and corporate was not for me, because the times that I was trying to expand my real business, my speaking business, the business that brings me passion and joy, was the same time that I had to go to work. The same time that a CEO at Best Buy wants to meet at 10 a.m., I got to go to work at 9. So I eventually started getting the whispers at work, and I just knew what was happening. And my relationship at that time was not going well with the person I was with at that time. And so the same month that I got fired from that nice paying job was the same month that I got dumped, was also the same month that I had to go through Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And this is all at 23 years old. And the day that I got dumped, the very next day, I had an interview with PBS over in Twin Cities, because they had picked up my story as an entrepreneur. And I was working an overnight job, making dishwasher knobs, making literally $11 an hour. I would drive down to Shakopee. I'm the only English-speaking person. But in the daytime, I'm going and getting interviewed by PBS about how successful I am, and really that fake it till you make it story. And it really brought me to really go down my passion, which was I've always wanted to get into the world of mental health. As a person who's had to overcome so many different things internally, I wanted to be around people who are still going through that struggle. So I eventually got a job as an overnight PCA, which I still do. I've been doing this for 4 years. At night, I work from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. as an overnight PCA. And then in the daytime, fast forward to today, I'm 27. I'm a landlord. I own my own duplex. I rent it out. My renter's downstairs. The rent that they pay pays the mortgage. So I just pay for my utilities upstairs. I live virtually free. I am now the CEO of Optimum Outreach, which is a telecom brokerage. We help businesses with their phone, TV, internet, and wireless services. I'm also, I've written 2 books outside of the first book. My first book is called The Power of the Subconscious Mind, the Pocketbook's Guide for Success. And then my most recent book is called The Essence of Inspiration, a book where I help individuals discover who they are by, again, we all get inspired in our life. But how do we actually scale ourselves once we get inspired? We'll scroll on Facebook, we'll see a good video that makes us feel all good inside, but sometimes we don't actually do anything with that. And as a person who gets inspired by conversations, I started to network with so many like-minded folks that spoke life into me at a time that, again, I was still just trying to figure out. And even at this age right now, 27, I'm still trying to figure it out. And what I've learned in the transition of growth is you have to be humble and you have to have a humility towards where you want to be. Because for where you want to go in life, someone's already been there, someone's already gone there, and many people have already written a testimony of how to get there. It's in a book, Think and Grow Rich. All the different books that people forget that why there's a library, we forget that we can really get to where we want to go. We just have to ask enough people who've been there. And so fast forward today, I'm in a frequency of prosperity, happiness, and gratitude. In a couple of months, I'll be able to purchase my second property, a 4-plex. My big goal as an entrepreneur was always to retire my mother. Unfortunately, COVID retired her before I could, but I'm still in that frequency of that. As I continue to expand my network and my net worth, I'm looking to assist my family. My entire family lives in Tennessee. I'm the only family that chooses to stay in the cold, and it's just been a humbling ride to where I was, to where I'm headed, and where I'm currently at.
Oh my goodness, what a story. Wow. You are the perfect example of that entrepreneur that comes to the wall, sees that wall, and starts looking immediately. Am I going to go over it? Am I going to go around it? Am I going to go under it? And if there's no way to go over it, under it, or around it, I'm going to go through. We're just going to go through and we're going to bust through that wall. And, life isn't perfect, and not everyone grows up in beds of roses and has everything handed to them. And there are lots of us, myself included, that have had to work and claw and just really put in every amount of effort to make it, and have all those shortfalls and get back up again and do it again. And so, I want to just say how inspired I am by your story, and how that you haven't given up. And every time you got knocked down, you got back up and you did it again. And I'm certain that our audience that's watching and listening, are right now are going, you know what? Maybe I haven't had it so bad. Maybe my pitfalls wasn't so low. Maybe, or if I'm in that spot right now, that there's a way out, that there is a way to be more successful. So you mentioned several books that you've read along the way. You've authored some books of your own. You mentioned The Secret, which I'm also a big fan of. I love that you watched that 30 days in a row. I used to hold viewing sessions of The Secret. I'd come watch this with me. You need to see this with me. And if it resonated with people, I knew that it was people I wanted to spend more time with. And so, what are you watching or reading today? What's got you inspired in this moment right now at this spot in your life?
Me meeting like-minded people. Really, I continue to meet people in their transition of growth. And in my mind, I've been there, done that, but let's get you through this. And so I talk to a lot of folks. I'm highly active, even though we're in this COVID world. We're also in a virtual world where what inspires me now is just knowing that people want to grow in their life, and I may know someone who can help them. I would say right now I'm a bridge. A lot of people who want to get into real estate, they want to be homeowners. I can either point you to my realtor, point you to my loan officer, point you in the right direction, because that's what eventually happened to me. I kept asking people, hey, how do I be a speaker? Hey, how do I get in front of an audience? Hey, how do I do these things that I aspire to do? And it really is just paying it forward. And I'm still planting the seed. I'm still growing. I'm still doing all these different things. And I'm listening to the book that I just recently finished reading, was the five signs of love, the five love languages. So
Yes.
I'm in a sense of self-growth, self-love, and discovering what ways I would love to be loved, because I'm such a giver. And as a giver, we all know that once you give, you'll be left out with nothing. So I'm now in a stage of like, all right, it's okay being alone. It's okay just taking myself out for breakfast, not having someone to spend quality time with, or in my sense, I call it swiping right for Miss Right. You recently got married. I saw that last year, a couple years ago.
Yes.
That's what my aspirations are. And I have a really funny business partner, and he has an amazing family, and he's a married man. So as a person who's a bachelor, 27-year-old, wild, crazy entrepreneur, I now also have a person that has that balance of being a husband, being a dad, and inspires me to go down that route where I'm a big kid at heart. And for a person who didn't grow up with a father, I want to be able to be the best father. And so for me to go down that route, I'm just planting all the seeds for everything that I'm looking to grow, because I plan to be a stay-at-home dad. Home, everyone's crazy about this COVID of, homeschooling their kids, but I'm looking forward to be at home and teaching my kids, because I love the empowerment that I've learned about self-growth and self-education. And so what inspires me is that I know that whomever that I'm attracting in my life, or for the next stage that I'm going down, that it's going to be a road worthwhile. I'm young at heart, at age, but in a sense of maturity and intellect, I'm around so many people who are over 30, 40, 50, 60, and I've had to grow up a lot faster than many people. So I just got brought in to now teach 8th graders out in St. Paul social justice. So for the month of October, for 6 weeks, I'll be teaching kids, 8th graders, how to be social justice warriors, how to be activists, how to stand for what they believe in, whether it's animal rights, women's rights, whatever the case may be. As a person who's been able to do that in my political life, I used to be a campaign manager for a guy running for mayor of Minneapolis. I've been a part of the 15 Now organization, helping raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And just me getting out of my comfort zone, I've been blessed to speak at the state capitol on generational poverty. How do we do that? How do we overcome it? Let's have a conversation on how we build assets. How do we do these things if we've never done it? Well, I'm around enough people who have assets that have taught me how to build my credit. At 23 years old, I had to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So I had a credit score over 415 to now over 695. And it took a lot of growth. It took a lot of just crunching down of being able to do the things that I had always aspired to do, because I really wanted to have a house at 23 years old. I wanted to have a house at 20 years old. But with credit, all the school's debt and stuff, it wasn't plausible. But I kept planting that seed. At 26 years old last year, October 9th, 2019, I bought my first duplex. And so October is next month, and I'll be celebrating my 1 year as a homeowner, a landlord, and living virtually rent-free.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's one of everyone's dreams. I mean, you talk about the American dream, owning a home, and not only owning a home, but you've put yourself in a position where you don't have the house payment because you've got that renter there, that you've took your entrepreneurial spirit and your work ethic and made that happen. That's fantastic. And I'm just going to speak to the audience. He's 27 years old, folks, 27. And that life experience that you've had thus far has really just given you knowledge and experience and foresight that other probably 27-year-olds don't have or haven't had those same experiences. I can think back to when I was 27, and I wasn't where you are today. I was just starting to figure out. I think it was when I hit 30. When I hit 30, I was like, oh man, like I need to get my act together. I need to make some big changes, and I did things like I went and got a will and got that in place. I got life insurance. I did all the things. I'm like half dead. I'm 30 now. I'm 45, and I look back and I go, oh my gosh, I was still so young and still learning. But wow, what a life and what a inspiration it is to hear you share this and share your message with others. And so no matter where you are in life, no matter what you want to accomplish, it's never too late to start and to start again and to start again. And you're a perfect example of that. And so I would love to know from you, because, you talked about earlier that lady that you had that 3-hour lunch with, and she said, where do you want to be in life? And you gave up all these excuses. And so what's the vision now? What lies ahead for Denarius Lewis?
Yeah, so obviously I said I'm swiping right for Miss Right. So
Yes. Yeah.
definitely going that route of as I'm building an empire, being able to share it and just experience the things life has to go. So I would say in the next 5 years, 3 years really, next year, to be very frank, after my next property, I should be able to step away from my overnight job. My goal, the reason why I got into real estate is to give people in need housing. So my goal is 30 units by 30. Where I can assist people who are vulnerable adults. I have another business I want to launch called MIG Home Care, which is a home care company where I've been a PCA for many years. I've seen the downfalls of it, and I want to be able to change that with the different opportunities. And so right now I'm building out my online brand a little bit more. Me and my business partner, we just launched our telecom brokerage called Optimum Outreach. And so that's been a very, very fun endeavor where we're a business, we're for profit, but we do a lot of good in the side. So we've been doing well through this COVID. And a couple of weeks ago this summer, we had a chance to do my big passion is tackling the homeless communities. And we have a lot of homeless encampments happening, obviously with all the things shutting down because of COVID. So this summer we did a homeless survival kit drive. We went around, I went to Walmart, bought a lot of supplies and was able to go out and deliver it to people in need. We have an ambassador program where we're now in a position to assist people who are in need. So we pay people $100 per referral that closes with our organization. We're non-biased consultants. We work with all vendors, Verizon, every telecom commercial, Comcast, Xfinity, all those different, CenturyLink. We work with every single one of those individuals, and we're in a position where we have an ambassador program. So we've been expanding our team. We just expanded out into the UK. So we have an ambassador out there that's looking to, we're looking to land the University of Edinburgh, which is very cool, where we're in Minnesota, but we met someone out in the UK that loves what we're doing. They're now a part of our team, and we're expanding at a rapid growth. So 5 years, 10 years from now, my goal is to have my real estate empire. I want to have 30 books before I'm 40. So I have to get to writing and be a husband, be a dad, and retire my mom, give her a house. I'm looking to after I cover my properties, I'm looking to buy one in Tennessee so she can live the way she wants to live without having to worry about the things that she continues to worry about. And I have really big political aspirations. No one really, and those that know me closely, my goal is to have a $400 million empire by 2033. If I were to choose to go down the route of running for presidency or supporting a candidate that I love, or I want to be able to be a self-funded candidate. I've been in politics where I've been around people who've had to sell themselves out to super PACs and all that other unfortunate stuff. And as a firm believer of humanity rather than of right versus left, I really want to be in that world where what we can do is better advance humanity. And it starts with the carbon fibers that we put in the world, all the gas, all that fun, unfortunate stuff, and having that conversation without continuing to dilute it with whatever the world continues to dilute it with. So big aspirations, retire before 30, take care of my mom, eventually start a family, and swipe right for that Miss Right.
Oh, that's awesome, man. It's 2020 and you're talking about 2033.
Yeah.
I love that about you. And I wrote down something that I think embodies you as well. And I wrote down that your goals of success include others' success. And I love that too, because a lot of people, when they're thinking about what they want to accomplish in life, it's all about them, right? I want this, I want this. But multiple times throughout this interview, you talked about how your vision is to not just help yourself, but to help others along the way and make a difference in the world and have a voice for people that maybe are not speaking up. And I'm inspired. I'm motivated by what you're sharing, and I'm super, super excited. I'm so glad to know you. And we met originally through a friend. He was talking about networking, and our friend Lois Kofi, I believe, introduced us originally. And Lois is now in California, and we're both still in Minnesota, where it's nice and cool. But
over there, so we're in a better position.
Well, that's true. That is true. But networking and making those connections and building those relationships are a lot of what fuels, a lot of those possible dreams. And so I'm thankful to have been networked to you to get you on our stage in December of last year. And I was curious too, as we get ready to close soon in this interview, you're one of the few to grace the stage of AGC. I mean, now we're in online events, and which is great. We're reaching a huge audience through our online events, but you were in an in-person event, and we were downtown Minneapolis in a real swanky place, and there was about 100 plus people in that room, and you killed it on that stage that night. And so, I'm just kind of curious from you, what was your experience? Was there any big takeaways or moments of enjoyment from that night? Can you remember back that far?
Yeah, I definitely can. It was great. I had a lot of great experiences. We had our own table. Was able to sell books. I'm still Facebook friends, and I got a lot of one-on-ones with some of the people as well. So I enjoyed the environment. It was very warm. You had the comedian. I love the environment. It really inspired me because, again, I was new to AGC. I was like, what is this place? Oh, what is this? And the environment was so warm and welcoming that I was able to build friendships, and I've had one-on-ones with a lot of people there. Wendy, one of them, very, very fun, bright personality.
Yes.
I don't know if it was the wine or just the conversation that we were having, but I love the environment, love what you're doing. I get every email, and obviously you just released your first book. So
I did.
I'm a part of the community. I'm seeing everyone shine, and I like to be around like-minded people that, we're in the same frequency. We're going down the same path. And in my world, there's no such thing as competition. We all can grow and build together. And that's just how I feel, because the topic that I can speak on, or the passion that I speak on, or my story is a lot different than everyone else's story. Every speaker has a story. Every speaker has a different workshops, and that's what makes us so different. And so I'm not in that world of competition or thinking I'm better than someone or whatever the case may be. And I love that was an environment that I came into where everyone was very welcoming and open to just be authentic in who they are and what they represent.
Oh, that's great. You're absolutely right. I love that abundant style of thinking. There is enough business and enough money out there for everyone. There really is. That's why when you look on every corner, there's a McDonald's and a Burger King right across from it, and a Wendy's down the street, and they're all selling hamburgers. But there is enough business for everyone, and I'm so thankful that we share that same abundant mindset. So Denarius, if we want to find you after today's podcast, how do we find you? We're on the podcast show, the Experience Podcast, with Denarius Lewis.
Yeah, so anyone that looking up my name, you literally can just go on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Denarius Lewis, or you can just go to our business, optimumoutreach.com. Where you can stay up to tune with us. Every month, we do a monthly business networking meetup virtually. So the next one is September 24th, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And you can find that on our website, where we bring in 30 entrepreneurs and like-minded people each month just to have them display their business, how their business impacts the community, and how we can assist them as well. So right now, we're bridging the gap for people, looking at get individuals the expertise and just the know-how, just how to stay intertwined. I mean, we can't go out to the BNI groups anymore, the meetup groups, the happy hours, but you can grab a glass of wine and jump on and sit down and just talk to us, and we can do our best to empower you to be your best.
Oh, that's awesome. I would love to attend that as well. I love attending anything networking. I've always said, and that comes from that abundance mindset. We are a networking organization, AGC. That's what we do. However, we endorse and say you need to be networking a lot of places. You can't just pick one place to network. You got to diversify that network. You need to get involved in multiple organizations, really widen that out and meet a ton of people. So I'm so glad to hear about what you're doing there, and I look forward to attending as a guest sometime. So awesome. Well, excellent. Well, Denarius, thank you so much for being an absolute amazing guest, and I've enjoyed this interview so much. So thank you for being on today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And for our listeners, for the people who are watching or listening right now to the AGC Experience podcast show, I want to say thank you for tuning in. I want to say thank you for hitting the subscribe button. You're likely listening on Spotify or iTunes or any other place you can find podcasts. And I want you to hit that subscribe button so you get this new and different content. Every Monday, we drop that new podcast. And please, if you enjoyed this experience, if you enjoyed the quality of the content, and you're like, you know what, I identify with some of the things that Denarius said, please share it out with others. The way that you can impact the world is to say, hey, I heard this great podcast and I was able to pull some value from it. And I was thinking of you and I thought you might enjoy it also. So share it out with others. Thanks again for being here. Till next time on the AGC Experience podcast show.